He thought she was powerless, a pawn in his game. But Tessa Grace watched, planned, and waited. Every betrayal recorded, every secret exposed. Now the tables have turned, and no one controlling her life will walk away unscathed. I grip my water glass tighter, knuckles whitening as Marina's words hang in the air between us. "So next week I'll be moving into your place," she says with a casual smile, as if announcing she's switching to almond milk or taking up jogging, just until she figures things out. The champagne pops open beside me, my father beaming as he pours the bubbling liquid into crystal flutes I've never seen before. My mother's china, the set she saved for Thanksgiving and Christmas, gleams under the chandelier light. The table arrangement should have been my first clue. Something was happening. Marina seated at the head of the table. The formal settings. The champagne chilling. This isn't Sunday dinner. It's an ambush. I've already started packing. Marina continues, accepting a flute from Dad with a gracious nod. It shouldn't take more than a day to get everything moved in. My parents exchange pleased glances across the table, nodding along as if this is the most reasonable plan in the world. As if my consent is merely a formality already given. The garage boxes make sense now. 3 days ago I'd found them stacked against the wall. Oversized plastic tubs labeled Marina's winter clothes and Marina's books. When I texted her about them, she'd brushed it off. Just temporary storage, she said, just until she found more space in her apartment. I should have known. Just like I should have known what it meant when I confronted my parents about paying Marina's rent for the 3rd time this year. "She's going through a rough patch," Mom had said, waving away my concerns. "That's what family does. We help each other." I hear my mother's voice from last week, the phone call I wasn't supposed to overhear while waiting in her kitchen. "Tessa is so lonely in that big house," she told Aunt Vivian. "She needs her sister's company. It's perfect timing, really. Perfect timing. As if my life exists solely to accommodate Marina's latest crisis." I set my water glass down carefully, reaching for my purse on the floor beside me. The trembling in my hands has nothing to do with nervousness and everything to do with fury. "Why do you look so serious?" Marina laughs, her eyes darting briefly to our parents. "This is good news for both of us. You get company, and I get to save on rent for a while." My fingers close around the manila envelope I'd brought, the one I'd almost left in the car, thinking tonight wasn't the right time. But there is no right time with my family. There is only their time, their plans, their expectations. The tremor in my hands steadies as I place the envelope on the table. "Actually," I say, my voice calmer than I feel, "I have news too." My parents' expressions shift instantly. My mother's smile falters, eyes narrowing slightly. My father lowers a champagne glass, forehead creasing with concern. The change is subtle but unmistakable, a united front forming against the daughter who isn't following the script. "What kind of news?" My mother's tone carries a warning. "Don't ruin this. Don't be difficult." I feel the weight of the familiar labels hovering in the air. Selfish, difficult, uncaring. The stakes of defiance are clear. Disagree and become the family villain. Again, looking at their expectant faces, I realize this pattern has defined my entire life. Marina takes, I give. My parents enforce the transaction. The roles never change. The lines never shift. Until now. I place the manila envelope in the center of the table, my fingers lingering on the edge. The room falls silent, my family's anticipation hanging heavy in the air. "What's that?" My mother's voice carries a hint of irritation, as if my interruption is derailing an already settled plan. "This," I say, carefully withdrawing the papers inside, "is the sale agreement for my house. I sold it last week. I have 30 days left before I move." The silence that follows is absolute. Marina's champagne glass slips from her fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. No one moves to clean it up. My father's mouth opens and closes like a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. "You what?" Marina finally whispers. I flip through my phone, pulling up the Pinterest board I discovered that morning. "Interesting timing, isn't it? While you were planning to move in, Mom and Aunt Vivian were already designing your future bedroom in my house." I turn the screen toward them, displaying their meticulous board labeled Marina's new room. My throat tightens as I watch recognition flash across their faces. 9 years of saving every possible penny, working overtime, sacrificing vacations and new clothes, all to afford this house my dream home. And to them, it was just another resource to be redirected to Marina. My father stands abruptly, towering over me. "You can just cancel the sale," he says, waving his hand dismissively. "These things have cooling-off periods." My mother rises too, resting her hand on his arm. "Tessa, we already promised Marina she could stay as long as she needed. You can't possibly expect her to find a place in 30 days. Actually," Aunt Vivian pipes up from the end of the table, "we were going to move most of her things next Tuesday while you were at work, just to make it easier for everyone." The coordinated betrayal steals my breath. I glance at Dorothy, my mother's oldest friend, sitting uncomfortably beside Aunt Vivian. She stares fixedly at her plate, avoiding eye contact with everyone. "You can't do this," my father says, his voice hardening. "What about your property taxes coming due? You know I always help with those." The implied threat isn't subtle. His one annual contribution to my finances dangled now as leverage. "Tessa," my mother says softly, her voice taking on the concerned tone she uses when discussing unstable people. "I'm worried about you. This kind of impulsive decision-making isn't like you. Are you feeling all right? Have you been taking care of yourself?" I recognize the strategy immediately. If not compliant, then possibly unwell. It's a familiar path in our family dynamic, one that's kept me in line for years. "You did this on purpose," Marina accuses, tears streaming down her face. "You found out I needed a place to stay and sold your house just to spite me." The accusation lands like a physical blow. This is how it always goes. My boundaries recast as cruelty, my self-preservation painted as selfishness. For a moment, I consider explaining the truth, the catastrophic roof replacement that drained my savings, the water line break, the heating system failure, the mounting financial pressure that made selling not just advisable but necessary. But what would be the point? They've already cast me as the villain in this family drama. Why give them more ammunition? "I made this decision for my own reasons," I say instead, keeping my voice steady. "And it's final. So you're just going to leave your sister homeless?" My mother's voice rises. "After everything we've done for you?" The familiar weight of guilt settles on my shoulders. Everything they've done for me. The invisible ledger of family obligation that only ever seems to accumulate in one direction. "Marina isn't homeless," I point out. "She has an apartment, and if that doesn't work, she has your spare bedroom." "That's not the point," my father interjects. "Family helps family. Period. Anyone." The unspoken remainder of that sentence hangs in the air. "And you're not being family. I think," I say carefully, gathering the sale papers back into the envelope, "that we have different definitions of help." Under the table, I feel a gentle squeeze on my hand. Dorothy, still avoiding eye contact with everyone else, whispers so quietly I almost miss it. "Good for you." It's a small validation, but in this moment, it feels monumental. One person in this room doesn't see me as selfish or cruel for protecting myself. As I sit there with my family's accusations hanging in the air, I wonder whether I should explain the financial struggles that forced me to sell my beloved home or simply hold firm without justifying my decision. Would sharing my vulnerability help them understand, or just give them new ammunition to use against me? The following days are a battlefield of calls, texts, and judgmental messages. Aunt Vivian, Uncle Edward, and even my father's golf buddy call, each weaving their narrative of Marina's impending homelessness and my apparent heartlessness. Social media only intensifies it, Marina's post painting me as the villain. Every night, I pack, organize, document. 9 years of memories sorted into boxes labeled keep, donate, and trash. Wedding photos, graduation pictures, vacation snapshots, all bubble-wrapped, stacked, filed. Every bank statement, repair invoice, and emergency fund withdrawal is meticulously documented. My home has become a shrine to both my independence and the battles I've fought unseen. By Saturday, my parents arrive unannounced, flanked by Marina and Aunt Vivian. I stand at the head of the dining room table, folder in hand, and calmly lay out every financial struggle I've endured. Roof replacement, $11,200. Water line repair, $8,200. Heating system, $5,000. Every bill, every emergency fund depletion, every sleepless night, transparent, undeniable. Marina tries to frame it as creative accounting. My father, mother, aunt, they all grapple with the evidence. Dorothy, Barbara, and Thomas watch silently, their presence a quiet affirmation that for once, I am not alone in my truth. I refuse to be manipulated. I hold up my spreadsheets, show the reality of dependence versus responsibility, and leave them to reconcile their perception with reality. Marina storms out, her facade cracking under the weight of truth. By the time my parents leave, I feel a freedom I haven't known in years. My home is half empty, memories preserved in boxes, my financial independence intact, my boundaries clearly drawn. For the first time, I am not the family villain. I am Tessa Grace, independent, assertive, and unyielding. Dorothy arrives that evening with food, wine, and reassurance. The world outside my family's expectations feels brighter. Thomas and Barbara check in. My townhouse application is approved, a lower mortgage, reduced financial stress, a future I control. A week later, Marina and I sit at the kitchen table, surrounded by spreadsheets. For the first time, she calculates her own path forward, and my parents observe with a mix of pride and regret. Boundaries and accountability, growth through struggle, finally, the lessons learned through hardship resonate. Tessa Grace sits in her new downtown loft, sunlight streaming through the windows. Memories of her old house still linger, but they no longer bind her. Independence, boundaries, opportunity, and self-respect now define her life. And yet, in the quiet moments, a subtle tension remains, a question hanging in the air. How much has truly changed, and what will the next challenge reveal about family, loyalty, and resilience? Tessa Grace's mornings in the downtown loft begin with sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows, dust motes dancing in the air like sparks of a new beginning. The city hums below, oblivious to the battles she's fought and the ones still waiting. While the loft is small compared to her old house, it's hers, completely, undeniably hers. No uninvited guests, no family agendas, no expectations beyond her own. The boxes are still scattered across the room, each labeled meticulously: sentimental, financial documents, office supplies, essentials. She sips coffee, staring at the skyline, letting the silence stretch. A week has passed since the confrontation with her parents and Marina, yet the residual tension hasn't left her. Freedom feels fragile, like glass, beautiful but breakable. Her phone buzzes. A text from Marina, curt and uncharacteristically respectful. I found a place. I'll move out next week. Good luck, Tessa. Tessa sets her cup down slowly. No gloating, no excuses, no pleas, just a simple acknowledgement. Good luck, Marina. She doesn't respond. Silence feels heavier than words, but in this moment, it's a shield, a line drawn in the sand. Her loft feels suddenly more like a fortress. The city is alive with possibilities. New work, new contacts, fresh opportunities. Tessa spreads her spreadsheets on the dining table-turned office desk. Every transaction, every emergency repair, every penny saved and spent carefully tracked. Her finances are no longer a vulnerability to be exploited. They're a weapon of control and proof of independence. By mid-morning, the tranquility is shattered. The doorbell rings, insistent, impatient. Tessa's heart jumps, not from fear but alertness. Visitors are rare. She checks the peephole. 2 figures, her father and Aunt Vivian. Without thinking, she opens the door. Her father smiles, but there's tension in the edges of his expression. Aunt Vivian's posture is stiff, her hands clasped in front of her like a judge, ready to deliver a verdict. Tessa, he begins, voice smooth, practiced. We need to talk. I don't think so, Tessa replies calmly. We've talked plenty. I'm sure you'll understand if I'd rather continue enjoying my new space. Her father steps closer, ignoring the boundary. It's about Marina. She's struggling more than she admits. She needs help. Tessa feels the old familiar anger bubbling beneath her calm exterior. This is the same script, the same manipulation, played like a record stuck on repeat. She shuts the door softly but firmly. Aunt Vivian knocks sharply. Tessa, open up. This isn't about control. It's about family. You're being unreasonable. I'm being reasonable, Tessa says through the door. I've provided the facts, set the boundaries, and respected Marina's independence. That's reasonable. What you're asking is not. The silence that follows is electric. They don't move. Tessa holds the door for a few moments, letting the tension settle before finally closing it completely. She leans against it, exhaling slowly. Independence feels more like a battle won with every refusal. By afternoon, Tessa immerses herself in work. She's a financial analyst at a boutique investment firm downtown, a position she clawed her way into despite years of being dismissed by her family as too sensitive or too soft for the real world. Her laptop hums as she runs projections for a high-profile client. Suddenly, her screen fills with an incoming email marked urgent. The sender, Carter and Finch Legal. Tessa opens it cautiously. The letter outlines a dispute over the sale of her old house. Apparently, Marina's new landlord claims the house sale violated some obscure clause in a prior lease or agreement. The legalese is thick, but the gist is clear. Tessa could be dragged into a court battle unless she intervenes immediately. Her stomach tightens. This is familiar territory, the legal entanglements her family seems to magnetize. But this time she's ready. She gathers the folder of house documents, repair receipts, and communications she meticulously maintained. Every payment, every sign form, every record is now ammunition. She calls her attorney, a sharp woman named Evelyn Royce. "Evelyn, I need you to prepare for a potential lawsuit," Tessa says. Her voice is steady, betraying none of the anxiety she feels. "Already ahead of you," Evelyn replies, her tone brisk but reassuring. "From what you've sent me, you have a solid defense. They'll have to get creative to pin this on you." Tessa leans back in her chair, a tiny smile forming. The first strike has been deflected. Her strategy is clear: documentation, evidence, control. She is no longer a passive participant. She is an architect of her own life. Over the next week, tension escalates. Her parents send messages, half apologies, half accusations. Marina's posts online oscillate between gratitude and veiled blame. Tessa refrains from engaging, letting her calm exterior do the work that words cannot. At work, Tessa throws herself into a new project, a corporate restructuring plan for a mid-sized tech company. Long hours, spreadsheets, projections, and forecasts fill her days. Her coworkers notice a shift. She's quieter, more focused, a leader in her own right. She begins to mentor a young analyst named Lila, sharing insights with precision and clarity. By the end of the week, Tessa realizes something profound. Boundaries don't just protect you, they empower you. She has not only defended her property and autonomy, but she's begun to reclaim her professional identity, her voice, her influence. On Saturday evening, Tessa's loft doorbell rings again. This time, it's not family. A courier delivers a small, unmarked package. Inside, she finds a USB drive and a note. "If you want the full truth about your family's dealings, watch. Decide carefully." Curiosity mingles with wariness. She plugs the USB into her laptop. The screen flickers to life, revealing a series of videos. Her parents and Aunt Vivian in meetings, discussions about financial maneuverings, loans, and manipulations she never fully understood. Marina is present in some, smiling, nodding, complicit in decisions Tessa had assumed were innocent. Her hands shake slightly. This is beyond petty family drama. This is deliberate, sustained manipulation. Every loan, every payment, every promise, all orchestrated to maintain control over her. Tessa watches the videos, absorbing every word, every glance, every calculated maneuver. By the time the final clip ends, she knows one thing with absolute certainty: the next move is hers. Tessa spends the night planning. She outlines a careful strategy: financial transparency, legal leverage, public narrative control. She drafts letters to the banks, financial institutions, and legal firms involved. She documents every interaction with Marina, her parents, and Aunt Vivian. By morning, she begins implementing her plan. Small, precise steps, each action designed to reclaim control, protect her assets, and expose manipulation without unnecessary escalation. Her attorney Evelyn becomes her partner in this operation. Together, they craft a plan that ensures Tessa is untouchable legally, financially, and publicly. Every document, every transaction, every interaction is logged and backed up. 1 week later, Tessa arranges a meeting at a neutral location, a small law office conference room downtown. Her parents, Marina and Aunt Vivian, arrive, expecting compliance. They are met instead with confidence, preparation, and resolve. Tessa lays out her evidence: financial records, legal documentation, and the video files from the USB drive. Her parents' faces pale as they realize the extent of her preparedness. Marina shifts uncomfortably in her chair. "You've treated me like a pawn," Tessa says, her voice calm, deliberate. "Every decision, every expectation, every demand designed to manipulate me, to control me. But I am not your pawn. I am Tessa Grace, independent, informed, and protected." Her mother falters. "Tessa, we only wanted—" "No," Tessa interrupts. "You wanted control. That's not protection. That's manipulation. And it ends now." Her father opens his mouth, but Tessa raises a hand. "Save your explanations. They're irrelevant. The only thing that matters is this: I am secure, financially and legally, and any attempts to interfere will be met with appropriate action." Marina looks at her, eyes wide. I didn't know." "You should have," Tessa replies. "And now you know." Over the next few months, the family slowly adjusts. Tessa moves fully into her loft, establishing routines, friendships, and professional growth. Marina finds her own apartment, independent for the first time, and begins to understand boundaries and personal responsibility. Tessa's parents, confronted with evidence and the consequences of their actions, gradually soften. Not because they admit wrongdoing, but because Tessa's preparation makes resistance futile. Tessa keeps Dorothy and Thomas close, a support system separate from the family drama. With their encouragement, she begins exploring new opportunities, investment ventures, mentorship programs, and speaking engagements about independence and resilience. Standing by her loft window one evening, city lights twinkling below, Tessa reflects on her journey. She's fought, documented, planned, and asserted herself. She has boundaries, independence, and the clarity that only comes through struggle. And yet, a subtle tension remains. Family dynamics rarely change completely, and Tessa knows this truth. But she also knows she is no longer defined by them. She is her own architect, her own protector, her own force. Tessa Grace smiles softly. The battle was hard, painful, and exhausting, but victorious. And as the city hums below, she whispers to herself, "This is only the beginning."